Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
Welcome to Straight Up with Kevin Carter, a retired veteran and decorated police officer with over 17 years' experience, tackling current events, local, state, and federal, covering today's topics and events with special guests. And now, here's your host, Kevin Carter.
All right. It's been a little bit since I've been able to get on here and do a podcast. Had a lot of people ask, where have I been? I'm back. Thank you for all of the support. We surpassed 2,500 downloads. That's pretty amazing for somebody that does this on a part-time basis now. I'm very humbled. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we have a sponsor now, Highway 24 Hardware and Feed in Cooper, Texas. If you hadn't went down there and saw the new stock and inventory, new owners, I think you'll like what you find. Wanted to talk to you today a little bit about some of the small town corruption that I have uncovered again in Delta County, and the law enforcement job is to gain compliance with the citizens, and so I find it very hypocritical when a police officer or a department as a whole, in this case it's a department as a whole, wants to hold somebody accountable. However, they're not holding themselves accountable. And what do I mean by that? We're going to start with the thing that everybody probably has the most interaction with police officers, and that is in the tune of a traffic stop. Most of those traffic stops usually result of speed. That's probably the most citations any department issues. I don't have any statistics on that. That's just my personal experience from being a police officer. That was the primary reason for most stops was speed. Of course, there are many, many other reasons, but we're going to talk about the stop for speed. So in the state of Texas, the state says that any officer that operates a radar gun, which it's a speed verification equipment on board. Some of them are handheld, some of them are mounted on board on a vehicle. From this point on, we're going to refer to them as radar guns. So any law enforcement officer who uses a radar gun in the state of Texas must be trained in its use. In addition, the radar gun must be using Doppler technology. Why is that? Well, I can tell you from personal experience being certified, there is a reason that they want you to do that. Well, first and foremost, they don't just give you a car and tell you to go out and patrol the streets. You have to go through an academy. They have to train you. This equipment is no different. This is scientific evidence. So how are you just going to turn people loose with this equipment and expect them to go out there and do it right when they've never even been trained on it? We had a great case in point when one of the people, a friend of mine, actually got stopped in Delta County by the sheriff's department and was written a citation for speeding. And I had made a comment to her that I could most likely help her beat that citation, because of the fact that the officer I knew from experience, firsthand experience from being a reserve deputy there at one point in time, but also from talking to many other people who had worked there, none of that equipment at that department had ever been calibrated, none of those radar guns, nor had any of the officers there ever been certified to use it. So the first thing, and this applies anywhere, and if you want to challenge a citation, this is a place to start. This is for anybody that can do this. You can do what's called an open records request. You can go to the municipality or the sheriff's department, whatever, that wrote you the citation, and you can do an open records request for the officer's training records on that speed verification equipment, radar gun. And you can also ask for the calibration records, because that equipment just being slapped in that car does not mean it's accurate. It has to be calibrated, on a regular routine schedule. Not only that, taking another step further, every department I've ever been involved in or with, they had a daily regiment that you had to do. Every one of these radar guns comes with a set of tuning forks. And if you've never seen one of these, they're usually a piece of aluminum that kind of resembles a horseshoe shape, and you can ding them on the side of a piece of metal and they'll vibrate, and you can hold them up in front of the radar gun, and the tuning fork will have a number stamped on it. Whatever that number is, let's say it's 45, you hold it up there, that radar gun should say 45. It should be within plus or minus whatever the department's policy says they are comfortable with, letting that equipment go out that day on patrol. So let's just say the department says plus or minus 1. So if it shows up 43 and the bar is stamped 45, guess what? That unit did not meet department standards to be used, and therefore it should be taken out of service and sent in to be recalibrated. That is to make sure that the equipment is functioning, and they're in a proper fashion. There are some departments now. The ones I work for, it was always at the beginning of the shift you had to do that. I have heard of other departments that make their officers do that at the end of every traffic stop. So they do it at the beginning of shift. Every time they make a traffic stop, they have to do it. I'm not going to say that's crazy. I think that's a grand idea. If they've got the time and budget to make that happen, then great. It's just showing the citizens that they are cognizant of the rules and they're willing to follow them and hold themselves to a higher standard to make sure that what they're doing is right. With that said, this agency does not do that. They didn't have any of that. The open records request was actually appealed up to the Attorney General in this particular case, which they have a right to do. And what they were saying was that the evidence should not be released, or the information, I should say, should not be released because the case hadn't went to trial. Well, my argument with them was that's not accurate, or that's not actually the way it should be, because they were trying to use scientific evidence that was gathered illegally in our suspicions, and therefore any scientific evidence that is to be used against the defendant therefore has to be made available. It's called exculpatory evidence. If you're going to use something against them, you have to share that evidence with the defense. And so, long story short, the Attorney General in this instance ruled in this young lady's favor. They said, yes, Delta County, you have to release these records. Well, lo and behold, they never released any of it. The reason being is they didn't have any of it. So the young lady had a pretrial hearing, and during the pretrial hearing, she had told me, she said, they've already told me that they have a video of the traffic stop. And I said, the video is irrelevant of the traffic stop, because it's called, the video of the traffic stop is Fruit of the Poisonous Tree. The video was only activated because the officer used the radar equipment illegally, not being certified to use it, to initiate the traffic stop, which, for those of you that's never been in a squad car, most of the squad cars today's date, the minute you initiate the overhead emergency lights, it automatically activates the uh, video system, onboard video system of the car. So therefore, and a lot of these have really gotten sophisticated. They will tie in and network the radar equipment into the camera system. So therefore, it's not just taking the officer's word as to what the speed was. It actually puts it on the camera. So then when that goes to court, that just reinforces what the officer's allegations were, that, okay, I saw, John Doe doing 65 and a 45. And when I initiate my traffic stop, a lot of those camera systems will they're always recording, but it's a first in, last out, or last in, first out type thing. So if you initiate the lights, which then turns on the camera system, that automatically backs up a minute and starts recording. So it's going to catch what the officer was doing the minute prior, the 60 seconds prior to them activating the lights. So, and it's also, if that system is networked into the camera system, it's going to show that as well. So if they observe that car traveling at a higher rate of speed than what they believe is the posted speed limit, and then they utilize the onboard radar system, and it tells them, yes, that is the case, then when they activate that, then all that comes up on the screen. So that's how it's supposed to work. This is not the way they were doing it. They were just arbitrarily putting people in cars, going out there, writing tickets, and this is not the way the state of Texas said it was supposed to be done. So when they come back to her after this and said, well, we've got video of it, that was my response. The video is irrelevant because the video only came into play based off of illegal speed verification to begin with. And so whenever she went to her pretrial hearing, that's exactly what she said. This ticket should be dismissed because they never honored the open records request, which is a violation of her civil rights. They have to honor that. Even the state of Texas said they have to honor it. She's pursuing that on another level with an attorney. That's way beyond my pay grade. My point is, the police here feel like that they can just do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, and nobody should question them. Well, guess what? Wrong answer. Because I just happen to be knowledgeable enough in this arena to say, you're not doing this right, and you're not going to hold. You're a hypocrite. You're wanting to hold people accountable for something that you're not even holding yourself accountable for, and it irritates me to no end that these people are put in these leadership roles to protect and serve. They're not doing it right. They're not doing it the way the law says it should be done. They're not doing it while the legislature of the state of Texas puts out these rules and regulations and laws that says this is how it's supposed to operate. And they just deviate from that and do it any way they want to do it. There are standards that are supposed to be held each and every day, each and every shift that an officer goes out and works. My biggest question is, if you're not holding yourself accountable, how in the world can we trust you to hold everybody else in the community accountable when you don't even know how to hold yourself? I mean, when you become a police officer, one of the first things they tell you is you're held to a higher standard, both in uniform and off, period. You're held to a higher standard 24/7. If you're out with your family eating dinner and you get into a disagreement with, the wait staff or whatever, you're held to a higher standard and in that situation, and therefore you should conduct yourself accordingly, even though you may have a valid complaint against, somebody in that respect. You still can't go acting an ass and throwing around the fact, which it happens every day, I'm a police officer, this, that, and the other. You can't do that kind of stuff. But what you have in these rural towns is you have these people they're hiring the bottom of the barrel. They're hiring the people, anybody with a pulse that'll come in here and work. And they just think because that's all they can get, then that's all that the citizens deserve. And that's not the way the system's set up. That is not the way it is set up. And so I was able to prove their system is flawed. I was able to have the state of Texas even basically say, you have to release these records. Your system is flawed. And they ultimately was forced to dismiss the citation against this young lady. The bigger question I have is, how many other people have they written citations to and collected money on that was not legal? Because it's up to the individual to bring this into question. Or is it really? Or should they be holding themselves accountable without somebody pointing it out for them? Clearly, in this case, they're not going to do it on their own. And I can tell you, I did put this out on social media and let people know, because information and knowledge is power. And I had a few people come back and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did this, because now this is going to cost, the county thousands of dollars." Well, if you were the one that was stopped in this deal and you were the one that was issued a citation, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to know that they didn't do it the right way? A great case in point here is, just prior to this, they had there was a case where they had stopped a young man, according to the press release, for speeding out on the highway. During the traffic stop, they come across a large amount of narcotics. The suspect then was arrested for possession, so on and so forth, put in jail, all the narcotics seized, the vehicle seized. Guess what? None of that case is any good, because it all started illegally, because the officers were not certified to operate the speed verification equipment, the radar gun. That started the traffic stop. The calibration of the equipment. There's just more that goes into just running up and down the road out there and watching your radar equipment and seeing who pops up over the posted speed limit. When you go to get certified to operate these radar guns, one of the first things they teach you to do is to observe vehicles coming and going and estimate what their speed is. So if you're in a 65-mile-an-hour zone, they will take you to that area, put you in a stationary mode, and say, okay, I need you to tell, and they'll give you 10 attempts. They'll say, I need you to tell me how fast this car's going. And you say, okay, you look, that car's doing 62. Then you verify with the radar equipment. No, the car was only doing 60. Okay, I missed it. That's how the system is designed to work. And if they were certified, they would know that. I can guarantee you what they do on a regular basis is they sit out there, or they sit in town, or they're moving in radar and oncoming traffic, and they're just looking at the equipment because they don't know any better. That's not how the system was designed to work. The equipment was only designed to be a verification of what the officer observes. It was not meant to be a sole provider of information for the speed of a vehicle. So, in other words, when I'm sitting out there on routine patrol and I see a vehicle that's traveling at a high rate of speed, I estimate that vehicle is possibly doing 80 miles an hour. I look at my my equipment, and the equipment says the vehicle is actually doing 85 miles an hour. Well, guess what? I was right. The vehicle is going above the posted speed limit, so therefore that's a valid traffic stop. That's how Stalker Radar teaches you to become certified to use this equipment. It was never meant to be the only source to write a citation. It is to corroborate what an officer observes. And that's why they want you to be certified on this stuff. So you know this when you go in. And the cosine effect on that, I can guarantee you they've never been certified. They don't know anything about the cosine effect. So if you're running stationary radar, you're supposed to be within 10 degrees angle of the vehicle that's approaching you. If you're outside of 10 degrees and the vehicle approaching you is doing 70 miles an hour, if you're outside that 10 degree of cosine, your vehicle is going to probably show up somewhere along the lines of 66, 67, somewhere in there. It's actually going to work out in the favor of the defendant. They say, why does that matter? Because the equipment's not being used properly. If you're outside the 10 degree of oncoming traffic, you're not getting proper readings. So there's a reason they want training. There is a reason they want these officers certified to use this equipment, because there's so much more that goes into it than just flipping it on and looking at numbers as they pop up. I have seen officers, they have a noise that it makes. Most of this equipment does, that will squeal whenever it's verifying a speed. And if that car is accelerating, then you'll hear the squeal going up. If it's decelerating, you'll hear the squeal going down. If it's at a steady pace, then the squeal will come on and just stay at a steady decibel. And I've seen officers go out there and set it and then just wait for that to pop up or hear that squeal, then they'll look at the equipment. That's not how it's designed to work. That's not how it was designed to be used. So I say all that because if you have got a ticket, especially in Delta County, by all means, you need to fight it. You need to fight it, and you can fight it yourself. You don't have to have an attorney. You have a right to one. Sixth Amendment of the Constitution says you have a right to an attorney. And what, like, an open records request will get you everything you need to beat a citation like that. I can tell you that I do know from talking to a friend of mine that's a state trooper, they are required to certify on the equipment every year. They have to be recertified every year. The statute says you just have to be certified. The state, the troopers, I get it. They go above and beyond. If you want to know how to write a citation the proper way or work an accident the proper way, talk to a state trooper. That's what they do best. They are the best at that. That's what they do day in and day out. And DWIs, they are phenomenal. But anyway, I get off on a tangent there sometimes. But it's just not. It's not right when these folks in uniform think that they can just go out here and do whatever it is they want to do. And I attribute this all the way to the leadership of the department. I don't care what department it is. The leadership should know these rules. And the leadership should have said, we're not going to write any citations because we're not in compliance. And until we can get in compliance, then this is what we're going to do. They didn't do that. They just let everybody run, free reign and do whatever they want to do. That just gives the department a black eye, and it makes the public's trust level decline rapidly. You already have an issue with trust in the police in today's society. We've been seeing it over the last decade. It's going down all the time, and it's The media has a lot to do with it, but when the officers go out here and do stupid stuff like this, you can only assure yourself that the only outcome of this is negative. It's going to be negative backlash, just like the young man that got stopped with all narcotics. Was he wrong? Yeah, he was wrong. That case is most likely going to get thrown out of court with a good defense attorney, because the first thing they're going to do is challenge the probable cause for the stop. Once they establish that the stop was not legal, everything past that gets thrown out. No, he won't get his drugs back, naturally, but he won't be facing felony charges anymore. And guess what? All of the monies that got wasted by the department because they had an officer sitting out there working, wasn't certified, stopped a vehicle, took this person to jail, took the time to write the report, took the time to book in all the evidence, had the detective work on it to sure up information and then present the case to the district attorney, have the district attorney look at it and then prepare the case and then take it to trial. A lot of man hours goes into one of these cases only to be challenged in a court of law to be thrown out. You wasted thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars because the simple fact you couldn't do the one thing right that you were supposed to do, and that was just have your people certified, have your equipment calibrated and operating in a proper manner. And all of that could have been avoided. But instead, we're going to stand up and just waste taxpayers' dollars day in and day out. And I ask the question, how many other people out there are there that have been wrongfully charged with speeding and written a citation, and they may have paid it, or they may have taken deferred adjudication because that was the deal they were offered. If you don't get stopped again, then this goes off your record. Guess what? You should have never got the ticket to begin with. But now you did deferred adjudication, paid the county all of this money. They collected it from you illegally. So it just irritates me to no end when the system that we are supposed to be supporting and abiding by is not even functioning the right way. The people put in charge, one of two things. The people put in charge either don't know the rules or are just not going to follow them. One of the two. I would like to know the answer to that. I'm sure we'll probably never find that out, but it would be interesting to know. Do they truly know the rules? If they didn't, why not? And when they did learn the rule, what did they do to fix it? I am curious to know that. That's my next goal, is to find out what they have done now that they've been outed, now that it's been on social media, now that this podcast is out, now that they know, that the public knows they're not doing it the right way. What are they going to do to fix it? Have they done anything? Have they wrote any more citations since then? Those are things I fully intend to find out, and I will keep you posted. That's really all I have today. I wanted to just thank you again for listening, and again for our sponsor, Highway 24 Hardware and Feed, 1801 West Dallas Avenue in Cooper. All of your farm and ranch needs, stocked up on plenty of feed, plumbing supplies, electrical supplies, RV supplies, you name it. Those guys have it. And if they don't, let them know they can get it for you. Thank you again. Greatly appreciate all of you that have called, emailed, asked where I've been. I've just been busy, and I plan on getting back on a routine here to do these on a more routine basis. And until we talk again, have a great day and God bless.
The last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Straight Up with Kevin Carter. For questions or comments, contact us at straightupkevincarter@gmail.com. Until next time.